Hi everyone, I'm here to talk about accessible cybersecurity. And it says who will secure the 16%, but there's like different numbers depending on who's counting. And here we go. Okay, nice. I'll just do a little bit of a background of who I am and, why I'm so interested in this topic. So I'm a security engineer and an accessibility advocate. So, I have a very technical background, but I've always been interested in how cybersecurity impacts people, how people impact cybersecurity, the interactions. I'm also co-founder of Pheasant, a startup that does, accessible cybersecurity. And I also co-founded CyBlack, a non-profit charity that I co-led for about four and a half years. And recently I started as head of accessibility at the Cyber Helpline. Big news. And I co-authored Digital Accessibility Ethics, Disability Inclusion for All Things Tech, a chapter focusing on, accessible cybersecurity. I'm clearly obsessed with this topic, I'm hoping, we can learn a few things from each other. So let's look at the numbers I was talking about. We have about 1.3 billion people with disabilities globally. And that's 1 in 6 people in the world. In the UK, it's 16.8 million people. That's around 25% of the population that's disabled. And, these are not edge cases. These are not, fringe things. This is like normal human variation, right? It's like this is part of being human. Disability is part of being human. Most people that are disabled, nobody that's disabled chose to be disabled. Same way you don't choose the color of your eyes. A lot of people become disabled during the course of their lives as well. So it could be any one of us, in the future. So it's not something that's, static. So the way I see it, so the way my thought process has developed over the years is there's 3 layers of risk, cybersecurity risk that's created by the lack of accessibility. There's security controls and tools that exclude people with disabilities. There's the education and training that exclude people that are trying to get into the field, and there's the industry tooling and hiring processes that exclude people with disabilities from being able to work in cybersecurity, or at least create like severe disadvantages. There's something called the European Accessibility Act. I know Brexit and stuff were not really in the EU anymore, but if you're a company that's selling products in the EU, you would still be liable to this act. There's also the UK Equality Act of 2010 that protects people with disabilities from discrimination. And the NCSA has also recognized accessibility as a cybersecurity priority. Now, let me give you an example of like what lack of accessibility can cause. If you look at my screen, there's an email, and now imagine we're trying to teach someone how to spot a phishing link. As you can see, my mouse is hovering over a button on the middle of the screen. Oh.
Issues. Want to disconnect and reconnect and see what happens?
Psych. This is on purpose. I'm really sorry. I'm just trying to illustrate what it feels like to be excluded, right? I made an assumption that you can see what's on my screen. And I started going on about what's on the top right or the bottom corner of the screen. That obviously doesn't work, right? So that's one of the ways that I wanted to show you, like, what lack of accessibility can cause. So we can't rely on just one medium of information or one way of one sense. We can't rely on just sight or hearing. You can assume that everyone is able to interact with what you're building. You have to actually intentionally make it accessible. Sorry about that again. So I'm going to tell a few stories. There's a story of a student, and this is from someone I personally know, that was trying to study IT and cybersecurity, but because the tools that were being used to teach were not accessible. She's blind, by the way, and she couldn't use her screen reader device to access, the tools. And so she had to literally change her course. She couldn't complete that degree. And again, it's like, there's so many talented people that were living out, right? And, we talk about the talent problem. I really don't see it as a talent problem. I think it's more of, are we shutting people out that really should be in the cybersecurity industry? There's also the story of the employee, right? Say you're working in an organization and you suddenly became blind. Or if you're a security leader, if one of your employees, like a top analyst or top engineer, became blind, would you be able to confidently say that they'll be able to continue doing their work, with the tools that you have available? If the answer is no, then you have a problem. Or if the answer is you're not sure, then you need to find out. Because it's not just about the people that are already working in the organization. It's also who are you able to hire purely based on the tools that you have available. There's also the story of lost independence. So let's use the example of blindness is easy to grasp, right? So I'll keep making reference to this. Let's use the example of someone that's blind and that's trying to authenticate to your system, but they can't do that because maybe there's some poor labeling on the forms, which means the screen reader won't understand how to interact with that web page or application. Now you're forcing that person to get help from someone else just to authenticate or to put sensitive information on your platform. So that's independence lost, privacy lost. It's also a huge security risk because we keep telling people, don't share your passwords, keep your sensitive details to yourself. But if you leave no other option, then, what do you really expect, right? The story of the talents that we lose, I think I touched on this earlier already, right? The tools that we create, the hiring processes, are we really deliberately thinking about how people from different backgrounds are going to go through this hiring process and how they might be disadvantaged because of a disability or something else? So, really, what should we be doing differently, right? I've been talking about problems and issues, but what can you actually start doing differently as someone that works in cybersecurity? First, I would frame this as an ethics issue, right? Cybersecurity is all about reducing harm, protecting people, stopping bad people from being able to do bad things, right? And I feel like the reason that most of us got into this field is, yes, partially because it's interesting. You enjoy the technical bits. You enjoy digging into stuff. But I feel like it's mostly because you want to do something that has a positive impact on the world, right? So, from an ethics perspective, we really should I feel like it's a responsibility that we have to make sure that whatever we're developing or decisions that we're making take into account this factor that not everyone is the same, and we're not creating exclusion. And again, this is it, right? Inaccessible security controls don't prevent attacks. They create exclusion and risk. So when making decisions, this is a question that you should really ask, like, how will this affect people, including people that are different from yourself? I already talked about this. Sorry, it's a repetition. So an edge case, it's designing for normal variation in the human experience. This is also a good one. Try to seek feedback from diverse groups, right? Ask people with disabilities about their experience with the systems that you've developed and the security controls that you have. Include accessibility in the normal testing process that you have, right? I don't believe any security team is like just deploying changes without testing them first. So try to add to your testing process like these elements. And, create feedback channels. So one good thing that's really helps is most organizations have employee groups. They might have employee groups for gender. They might have employee groups for different special interests. But usually there's an employee group for accessibility and disability rights. Go in there, ask people like for feedback, any issues that they might be having or suggestions that they have for improving things. Ask your vendors. Like this is like very, very important because as a cybersecurity team, you don't really have direct control over the development process of the tools that you're using. So one way that you can exert influence is asking your vendors about accessibility. So ask, does it meet the Web Content Accessibility Guideline criteria? Can you provide reports? It's called a VPAT, but it doesn't have to be this exactly, but something that shows that they've intentionally designed for accessibility and tested for it. And something that shows that, ask them if they've tested it with assistive technologies like screen readers, and ask them about the accessibility roadmap. Sorry, if you're taking pictures, there's one more. There's something that you should be wary about if you're asking about accessibility. Some companies offer something called an accessibility overlay or plugin, and they claim that once you integrate it on your platform, it will solve all the accessibility issues and make you compliant. It's kind of like if you were doing a vendor security review and you asked them about their product security and they said, well, we have a WAF that we slapped in front of our application. That's all. Well, we're secure, right? So don't rely on these things. It's very easy to fall into those traps because they have very, very good marketing. And my hope is that sorry, what's that? Okay. My hope with this is that we can slowly start to influence these vendors into a direction where they're thinking about it more deliberately because they know that their customers care about it. Another one is, stop creating inaccessible content. So, if you're creating a post on LinkedIn, it's very simple to add alternative text so that if someone's using a screen reader, it gets the description of the image gets narrated to them. Adding captions to every video as well, whether it's a social media video or security awareness, so that, you don't even have to have a hearing impairment to benefit from captions, right? We all benefit from it, whether you're in a noisy environment or it just helps you, get the content easier. There's also like when you have a video where I say this a lot in security awareness as well. Something is happening, but it's not being narrated. Just the way I did with the glitch screen. Sorry again. If you're not describing what's actually happening, then you're leaving people out. And when it comes to documents as well, this is a common issue. You know, if you're not using proper heading structure, someone with a screen reader the screen reader would just get confused as to, like, the reading order is not going to make a lot of sense. And yeah, this one is also simple. Use like simple inclusive language when developing training content or even like security policies, right? If you don't understand the policy, then how would you be expected to actually follow it? Stop building broken authentication. This one really annoys me. Like, who hates captchas here? Everyone, like, nobody likes captchas, right? Yeah. But it seems to be like a thing that's just everywhere. And there's some that's only like image only, so if you're visually impaired, you can't really use it. There's some that are like IQ tests. There's some that require you to like physically use your hand to move something that fits something else. Some are a combination of all three, like cognitive, visual, and like motor as well. So if you have something like that, then be rest assured, like, a lot of people are being excluded from being able to access that kind of website. Oh yeah, I already talked about all this. Skip. Yeah, MFA codes is one as well. So, if you're enforcing MFA, then you need to test that the application is compatible with the screen reader, that there's enough time for everyone to be able to use like if it only lasts 10 seconds, it's an extreme example, but if it only lasts 10 seconds, then you know how many people will be able to realistically get the MFA code in. Oh my god, password fields that you're not able to paste in or autofill, where your password manager can't work with it. Super annoying. But imagine if you had a disability or you were using assistive technology, it goes beyond annoying. It goes into like completely unusable, right? So there's lots of good alternatives. If you support passkeys, that's like really good. There's also alternatives to CAPTCHA, like the Ultra. I think Cloudflare offers something like that as well. I think it's called. Sorry, I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, there's lots of alternatives that don't annoy users and exclude people as well. There's also the simple like keyboard tests. So if you want to know like at a glance if something is accessible, try to use it with just a keyboard, no mouse. Use your tabs and your spaces and your arrow keys. If you can't get to like from one end to the other with just a keyboard, that's not a really good sign. It means that something is really broken in that application. Yeah, I already talked about this. So yeah, so that's it really. I co-authored this book called Digital Accessibility Ethics, and my chapter is on accessible security. You can get discounts using that code, and you can learn more about it at accessibilityethics.org. The code is DAE 2026. I almost fell into that trap of like not describing what I was showing. Yeah, the chapter is called Secure by Design, Accessible by Default, Building Cybersecurity Ethics that include everyone by myself and Justin Merhoff. And yeah, thank you very much. So if your security program is not usable by everyone that it's meant to protect, then I forgot what I wrote. Then it has built-in weaknesses. So yeah, happy to take any questions or comments. And if you trust me, you can scan that QR code to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Right. You straight away with a question on the back there.
Thank you for inviting me to make my expertise. Question is, are you finding AI helpful?
That's a good question. I think it's both. I think when you're generating code very rapidly, and we've seen it a lot with like vibe coding, if you're not really intentional about the instructions you're giving or reviewing the code, then yes, you're going to have lots of accessibility issues. Same way you would have lots of security issues as well. But if you're baking in accessibility requirements into the requirements that you're giving to the AI code, I would say it's definitely better than doing nothing. And it will probably be better than if you were writing code by hand but not thinking about accessibility at all. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I think it allows people to generate code and build stuff very quickly. But then, same problem we're having with security is like, if you're not thinking about it and you're not building accessibility into it from design, then you're going to have lots of accessibility problems. But on the flip side, when it comes to assistive technology, I would say AI has been transformative, right? I've seen people design glasses that take an image of the surroundings and describe it to the user. There's also lots of like automations where you can control your computer using your voice. So if you have any disabilities that limit your interaction with the computer, that can help as well. But I would say at the end of the day, it's like we still have to build things that are accessible by design, because even with the like using AI to control your computer, for instance, like if the software you're using is not built to be accessible, even that program might have difficulties trying to navigate it. So I would say it's it has lots of potential to do good, but I would say it's also created problems as well.
Any other questions for Ali?
Yes.
What are some of the pushbacks that you've put in since you started talking to people about this?
Oh, interesting one. So one of the things that I used to hear is isn't accessibility sort of like in conflict with security, like meaning like if you're making it more accessible, access, you're opening it up and reducing the security. But it's quite the opposite, right? Because again, if it's not accessible, then it's creating security risk. There are some tensions, but I wouldn't say it's like they're opposing in any way. I would say they are quite complementary. Most of the other pushback I've gotten was probably from like trying to sell pheasants as a commercial business, which I've given up on, by the way. It's more of a personal mission to me now. But yeah, I'd say that's like the one that keeps coming back up. Any other questions?
And a final round of applause for Ali.
Thank you very much. Oh, one other thing. If you want to learn more about this, if you're super interested, please come see me, because there's something. There's something else going on that I don't want to say here. But if you're interested in learning more, I have something for you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.